After a year and a half, it's finally here, the last campaign of StarCraft 2 Deathless. It took me so long to make this video that people stopped asking for it. This Deathless run is a little bit different than the others, for two reasons. First is the nature of Nova Covert Ops. It's a short campaign with only 9 missions, with 2 full missions and 2 halves of missions being Nova solo segments. The second is my experience. I've actually done this run twice now. I initially recorded it back when I originally did the Deathless runs, but my footage corrupted, and then I procrastinated for a year and a half before redoing it. When you combine that with the fact that I practiced this campaign intensely to get the speedrun world record, it makes what is normally considered the hardest campaign a lot easier. In order to spice things up, I decided that for this run, the rule about keeping allies alive is going to be turned up a notch. I will always use the hardest trackable metric for my AI allies. With that said, the rules to the run are simple. End each mission with 0 units dead, and keep my allies alive. The escape is a Nova only no build mission. If she dies, I die, so the mission is basically a free win. There are 3 allied ghosts on the mission that can be rescued. They don't join my command, but they do follow me around. As long as I safely navigate them through the flame turrets, there's a 0% chance of anything going wrong with them. The second phase of the mission is a really weird side-scroller with Nova and an AI-controlled Stone. Occasionally Stone just forgets how to drive and will get himself killed, but today he was feeling nice and the Warhawk goes down without issue. Sudden Strike is where the game gets rolling, and I'm greeted by a problem that I caused over a year ago. In Wings of Liberty Deathless, I declared that spider mines are units. Sudden Strike is designed around dropping a large number of spider mines into these canyons to defend against massive Zerg attacks. The strikes don't head towards my base, but instead my ally Matt's. In Covert Ops, every mission with an ally has an achievement about keeping them alive, and they're tough. For Sudden Strike, Matt isn't allowed to lose a single building. This is normally considered one of the hardest mastery achievements. The mission skimps hard on money. With only 4 mineral fields, the game is really pushing the player towards the Reaper route, but I have a trick. I build a command center in Matt Horner's base and borrow his minerals. It's inefficient, but it's not as bad as having no income. On each of the cliffs, there are areas for bunkers. I don't intend to let a single one of my units fight outside of one today. The enemy Ravagers can one-shot my Marines with their corrosive bile. I'm not going to take any chances with them. The initial attack waves are dealt with almost entirely by Nova. Pulse Grenade deals with dangerous Banelings, while sniping Ravagers removes a second threat to buildings. I do let some enemies connect with Matt's bunkers. He's not fast about it, but he will repair them. The mid stages of the mission aren't that bad. Once high ground bunkers are in place, they start putting some serious damage on the Zerg. The majority of waves are cleared before reaching the blue base. The only snag are the Defilers. Units under the cloud of Darkswarm take 0 damage. Nova is now hyper-focused on taking them down before they pass my bunkers. At 19 minutes, a Brutalisk attacks. He can kill almost anything in a single hit and can easily end the run if you don't know how to handle him. His weakness is how slow his attacks are. The Slash has an incredibly long windup, and he will cancel anything he's doing if Nova comes in range to start attacking her. Once the Brutalisk has reached my bunkers, I do the safety dance, constantly dipping in and out of range so he stands helplessly as my Marines take him down. By now, I have a heavily entrenched position, with bunkers and depots fortifying each entrance against the final wave. And it's not enough. I lift my barracks to distract, fire at full force against the enemy, and still can't survive the tide. After multiple resets, I shift up my plans. Instead of fighting, I evacuate. This doesn't work how I intended. It actually worked much better. A mix of Hydralisks getting distracted by flying buildings and Ravagers clogging the channels meant that the scary Banelings and Ultralisks just couldn't connect. The timer expires and both my units and Matt's are completely safe. Enemy intelligence is generally a really difficult mission. The enemy attacks constantly from 3 sides. Filling nearby garrisons with Marines, Reapers, and Marauders will help whittle down their numbers. But sending units through the streets to reach those garrisons is risky due to the ferocity of the attacks. And the later stages of the mission are a death sentence. Which would be bad news if I didn't have the speedrun record for this campaign. The pre-placed defenders are almost identical to what I practiced on for the speedrun, making things simple. I pull my defenses back at home, turtle up with bunkers, and start clearing with Nova. There are a few differences to the speedrun, mainly in thoroughness and safety. I want to avoid sending my Marines through the streets here. Instead, once a position is clear, I lift a barracks, land it near the garrison point, and pop units in directly. For all remaining macro missions, every 5 minutes, Nova is given a nuclear strike. She gets 1 nuke per Ghost Academy the player owns. It is absolutely possible to trivialize the remainder of this campaign with a bunch of Ghost Academies, nuking everything into submission. But honestly, that's boring. I decide that I'm not going to go overboard here. I want the focus to be on Nova and my combat units throughout the run. This means I have to be tactical when and where to deliver my payloads. The primary target here is the top left garrison. The defenders are fierce and the Nidus worms are always a problem. Once everything is clear, it's a simple process of tossing soldiers into the remaining garrisons and moving on. Part 2 of the mission is a stealthy Nova-only segment. I walk through it. Trouble in Paradise is where things start to get a bit tricky. There are 3 missions in the campaign where I fight the Tal'Darim and they're pretty scary. But before that comes a no-build segment. 6 hatcheries must be killed in 3.5 minutes, otherwise I'll be facing off against the powerful Zerg attacks as well. With my new permanently cloaked Banshee, I'm able to clean them out easily. Nova Covert Ops is the only campaign where the Protoss are reliably threatening. Janara's armies are quite large and boast considerable burst damage. If I'm not properly prepared, they can easily kill my units in half a second. The mission is tough for 2 reasons. The first comes from her attack waves. They're almost pure sky toss. If I could use permanently cloaked Banshees or siege tanks to defend, things would be much easier. For mobile anti-air, I can only make Goliaths and Marines. Neither can stand up to carriers or Tempests. The second problem is Janara's mothership. It's supposed to attack my Terran allies, cleaving through them while I disable the shield generators. For protecting the allies rule, there's an achievement for them to not lose anything, which severely limits the time I have available on the mission. I opt to go for Cloak Nova and Banshees as my strike force with defensive missile turrets at home. The first shield generator I approach is in the northwest. It's poorly defended and Nova can take it out on her own while I build up my army. This takes a while, and my allies get dangerously close to dying before Janara is recalled. After each shield generator goes down, the Protoss strike. The first wave isn't really an issue, but the later ones absolutely will be. After nuking the defenses of the southeast generator, the area goes down cleanly. The next bit of the mission is pretty standard. I move my cloaked units around the map, dodge and snipe detectors, clear shield generators, and head back home to defend against sky toss. I repeat this 4 times and grab the bonus objective as I go. Eventually, all 4 generators go down. Janara gets angry and attacks me. While I said I was going to try avoiding nuke spam whenever possible, Janara is the exception. She one-shots any unit that I can make, so I don't have a choice here. But at this point, I decided I was going to make the nuke rule even more firm. For the rest of the run, no additional nuke silos are allowed on anything except for Janara. Night Terrors isn't that bad, which is weird because this mission is usually really hard. I have to extract Terrazine from 6 of 9 sites across the map. Each spawns waves of infested to attack from all sides for 2 minutes. I need some serious firepower to make sure that the infested don't get on top of my forces. The only other thing to worry about here are the Tal'Darim Protoss. Occasionally they attack the friendly space whales that I need to extract from, so I defend them. The trick is that as long as the Tal'Darim are kept at bay, there's no time limit here. This makes the answer incredibly simple. I max out on a death ball of Goliaths and siege tanks, spare no expense against the Tal'Darim attacks, and then once my army is impenetrable, start the extractions. It may have taken 35 minutes, but my forces won't die and the extraction process will end before the infested can kill an extractor. Flashpoint is not that much more difficult than Night Terrors. There are 4 coordinates to search with Nova. Each time a search is completed, I get to pick from a list of enemies, who will then have a base to clear. Once the base is down, that unit type will no longer be able to attack me. Liberators are great here. Their ability to quickly eliminate enemies from a massive range allows me to rapidly siege my way through the enemy forces. Due to fatigue from playing all day, I actually had to reset this multiple times. A few times due to just not microing my units for whatever reason, and once because a rogue nuclear bomb killed a bunch of my Liberators. I wonder how that could have happened. Once I buckled down and stopped acting like an idiot, the remainder of the mission is a relatively easy clear. After completing a quick no-build mission comes Dark Skies, the first truly annoying mission of the run. The Tal'Darim attack allied forces constantly from 7 sides at once. Matt's defenses have 7 small outposts as well as 3 fortified locations behind them. In the spirit of keeping allies alive, I decided that the small outposts are not allowed to die. This was a horrible decision and caused me a lot of frustration. The beginning starts out fairly lax. I get 3 Liberators and 3 siege tanks to defend against 3 lanes. Pairing them off is more than enough to defend for now. Back at home, there are 3 bases available, making this one of the highest economy missions in StarCraft 2. To go with that economy, I'm making battle cruisers. They come with a regenerative biosteel upgrade, which has been buffed from the pathetic 34 HP per minute in Wings of Liberty to 600 per minute. My Nova configuration here is one of the reasons this run took so long to come out. Nova is now sporting the Blazefire Gunblade, a secret weapon from the previous mission, and for over a year, the Gunblade was broken. It has an ability that lets Nova dart around damaging enemies. For a very long time, after activating the ability, Nova would lose the ability to use it again, and any sort of attack. They would permanently be gone for the remainder of the mission. Luckily, some mystery YouTuber on his second channel teamed up with his friend Rhyme and made a step-by-step guide on exactly how Blizzard could fix the issue. And then surprisingly, a week later, Blizzard figured it out all on their own, after what I can only assume is a year of trying. Really nice set of coincidences if you ask me. The Gunblade has a couple advantages for the end of this run. The Fury of One ability deals decent damage for its cost, but has a major upside. Nova is immune to all attacks during its animation. This is perfect for a deathless run. It also deals heavy damage in an area against air, making it the perfect answer to the large Void Ray attack waves the Protoss send. At the 10-minute mark, I gain the ability to send Gorgon battlecruiser strafing runs. I do this a lot. The 3 lanes that the Gorgons travel down are effectively cleared of problems. Nova moves about to the problem areas, leaving only the left and right lanes. This is where the battlecruisers come in. I grab my fleet and send them down the street. The Protoss can be a bit intimidating if they group up, so the battlecruisers instead farm them where they spawn. This is one of those setups that sounds fairly simple and easy when I explain it, but in reality it was much more frustrating. It's a mission where things just happen. With 7 lanes to watch, something always slips through the cracks. Some enemies bust one of the Gorgon lanes after it respawns, and I have to reset because an ally died. Void Rays target down a battlecruiser before it can heal, and I have to reset. A misplaced siege tank or liberator gets worn down over time and dies, or Nova learns that Janara can kill her in one shot. There are a bunch of different problems that each require a reset and are impossible to all pay attention to. This mission ended up getting me very frustrated and took me far too long to beat. As I reached the end, I was so fed up with the Tal'Darim that I break my own rule and chain nuke Janara to the next dimension. I am so done fighting Protoss. Endgame is a frustrating mission. There are 5 Gorgon battlecruisers around the map, each is guarded by a progressively more pathetic force of allies. Every few minutes, the Xanthos attacks one of the docked Gorgons. The ally achievement for this mission is to keep all 5 Gorgons alive, so I aim to do that. The problem is the Xanthos. It is horrifying. Without a doubt, this behemoth is the strongest enemy in StarCraft 2. The railgun does over 100 damage per shot, and the flamethrower melts light units in an area. This limits my options quite a bit. For Nova, I go with the Gunblade. Being able to deal damage while invulnerable is essential. For units, there's only a single Terran unit that can withstand 2 shots from the railgun. I try to avoid spamming capital ships at the end of campaigns, but for today, it's all about the battlecruiser. Each time the Xanthos retreats to repair, the Hyperion warps in to assist. In order to add a bit more difficulty to the mission, I decided the Hyperion is not allowed to die. This is more difficult than I thought. The Hyperion has weirdly low armor, charges blindly into things, and wastes its Yamato cannons on buildings. After babysitting the battlecruiser until it warps out, the Xanthos returns, this time with a fighter bay equipped. This is the least threatening piece of equipment, but it does add a considerable chunk of health to the ship. Battlecruisers have 3 things going for them here. On top of their incredible durability, the Yamato cannon has a long recharge and high burst damage. The Xanthos also has a long recharge and is weak to high burst damage. But most importantly, battlecruisers can teleport. After pushing the Xanthos back and making enough cattle bruisers, I normally would have to fight all the way to General Davis's base. Instead, the battle boys teleport behind her base, blast the weak point to activate the final fight, and skedaddle back home. Now, instead of fighting on her terms, the Xanthos will come to me. Unfortunately, while the normal Xanthos fights are my favorite boss fight in StarCraft 2, with multiple weapon systems that have to be individually targeted down, the final fight just doesn't have that. I melt the exposed weakness and it dies. With the Xanthos down, all that remains is to eliminate General Davis. And with that, I can confirm that it is possible to beat all of StarCraft 2 without, 4 deaths? Are you kidding me? This took me a long time to figure out. My first thought is that the game maybe continued playing outside of the Xanthos while I was inside, so I tried rushing through. Or maybe something died while I wasn't paying attention, some SCVs perhaps? I reloaded and took the Xanthos fight multiple times, and every time I was stuck with the same 4 deaths. I got to a point of desperation where I restarted the entire mission, and 4 deaths. This absolutely stumped me. And then I noticed something. Watch these 4 Marines as I enter the door. They have a small scripted sequence where they fire their guns and then run forward. Once I saw that, everything clicked into place. The Marines were firing at invisible target dummies, killing them and then running forward. And for some reason, these dummies are considered mine. 4 Marines, 4 dummies, 4 deaths. So I charge Nova in, blast the 4 Marines, execute Davis for wasting my time, and confirm, for real this time, that it is possible to beat StarCraft 2 without losing a unit.